All
Yeah.
right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Easter Monday, and I have really been fortunate to be able to have Nathan Francis on my podcast today. And he's going to talk to us about lots and lots of different things, but he's predominantly all about youth self-sabotage. And I will let him tell you what he does. So hello, welcome. Thank you for your
Hello,
time,
Linda. Thank you for
Nathan.
having me. Thank you for having me. Very, very grateful to be here.
Over to you.
Yeah.
Over to
Well,
you.
well, the work I do is I help youth, I help anyone really overcome their self-sabotage to live the life of their dreams, It's pretty much, I feel like we're holding ourselves back from being the best version of ourselves, We have the bricks on our feet, we have the chains on, and so I help people take them off and step into their full potential because we're all here for a reason. And a lot of people out there in society today are stuck in the 9 to 5 and doing that system stuff that's keeping them stuck where they are. And we came here for more than that. We are more than that. And I help people realize and remember who and what they are to live the life of their dreams. And I sort of targeted the youth with mine because our youth are getting, well, you got video games, you've got smoking, vaping, drinking, porn, all these things holding them back too. So I know for me, porn was my biggest one that I had to overcome and reprogram from. Porn and drinking, obviously. We'll talk about that in a minute if you like. And yeah, I sort of just help the youth remember who and what they are, and they're here for a more important reason than the things that they're doing. And I help them, overcome those programs and those belief systems that are holding them back from reaching their full potential.
So when you say youth, what age group do you think?
I've got a program that started three weeks ago that's with 12 to 20-year-olds.
Wow.
So that's my that's my teenage program. I'm about to launch a program for 21 to 35-year-olds in the next couple of weeks. So that's what I've got coming up. And I've sort of separated that. I feel like if I separate the ages, people can come in and be more of, like-minded people, make a community. That's sort of how I've done it. Yeah, that's sort of my programs coming in the future.
And how did you fall into the teenage self-sabotage kind of business?
I'll give you the 2-minute story. It is a long story, but
you can
the
take
night
as long
after,
as you like.
the night before I found this stuff was the night I looked myself in the mirror and said, I'm never going to touch alcohol again after this night. It was the last night.
How old were you?
I was 26. This is that photo that you liked on Facebook today.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I was 26 and I already started walking this path. I'd already started awakening, you could say, to the truths of the world and some truths that existed within me. And this night in particular, I'd already stopped drinking, but I just felt like I needed one more night just to let it all go. So it was the AFL Grand Final, Melbourne Bulldogs 2021. Actually, that Grand Final was in your neck of the woods. It was a Perth Stadium, I think, that Grand Final. It was a Saturday night.
I think it was.
Yeah, my cousin invited me over for a drink, and I said yes. And I looked myself in the mirror before I left and said, Nathan, this is your last night of drinking. It's your last night of doing these things, chasing women, being a creep, being immature, doing all those things. I was your typical young Aussie male. I'd drink, party, smoke, chase women, do all those things. It was starting to lead me down a path of self-destruction. And it wasn't until I started awakening and stuff, I was like, well, I am more than just that. I can do these things that I want to do. And yeah, that night in particular was an interesting night because it got to about 4 a.m. And I remember talking to 3 young girls that were probably no older than 20, and I was 26. And I fell through a table. There was like a plastic fold-out table, and I fell straight through it, hitting the ground.
Oh, lucky it wasn't glass. Yeah.
and that moment was my rock bottom. It was my rock bottom to say, look, I can't go any lower than this. It's time to pick myself up, dust myself off. I remember the next day I was pretty hungover, and I was on other things too. I did some drugs too that night as well, and I was pretty hungover. And I remember flicking through Facebook, and a buddy of mine had said to another friend of a friend that you should interview Jason Christoph, who is one of my many mentors, and he did a podcast with him, and I watched it that day, and he was talking about self-sabotage. He was talking about alcohol. He was talking about coffee. He was talking about all these poisons and toxins that keep us stuck and stagnant from where we are. And he was talking about the programs that are running through our minds that basically hold us back. And I resonated with so much with that podcast. I labeled myself the king of self-sabotage. I had the negative thoughts. I would have a nice woman come into my life and I would self-destruct. I would sabotage that relationship. It was just every box he was just reeling off. I would just tick it. And I was
Oh,
just
right.
emailing him I would email him for free advice and different things. And he launched his self-sabotage coaching school. And I had to do it. So
Ah,
I did that for 2022 and it completely changed my life first. And then I thought, well, how can I change the lives of everyone else around me and start stepping into my potential? And that's where the podcast started. I wrote a book in that time.
good job.
Started my
Wow.
website, which I have now. Yeah. I've done a lot of cool things since that fatal night where I had hit that rock bottom. But
Mm,
yeah, it's the way my journey's played out is every time I would quit something, the next day or a couple of days later, something would come in that would better me, that would
mm,
make me better. And
mm.
I'll never forget that rock bottom moment because I found Jason the next day. And I'm very grateful for doing that program. And I'm able to be in a position now to help our next generation coming through because if you look at the world today, I don't feel like any of us are leaving it any better than when we found it. And one of my mottos and one of my purposes here is to leave this place better than when we found it. And it
Wonderful.
starts with our future generations.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Fantastic. So how do you start a 12-year-old on a self-sabotage? It's pretty, I mean, a lot, I would imagine I've had 12-year-olds in my life, in my own family, and it's at this point that they're starting to get quite self-aware, self-opinionated, don't like to take advice very easily. So
Mm.
how does Nathan speak to the younger crew?
Well, some of the stuff I show these children, they're super interested in because it's not taught
Oh,
in school. This information
ah,
isn't shown in school. The
oh,
videos I
wow.
play about how easily hackable this part of the mind is, which keeps us stuck where we are, which keeps us doing these things we don't even know why we're doing it, like watching porn, drinking alcohol, drinking coffee, having negative thoughts. All this stems from our childhood, from 0 to 7. We're walking
Mm,
around as theta bots, I say. We're in that theta brainwave state. We're picking up on our programs from our parents, our friends of parents, and that's the sort of way we run our lives are ran. And I just help the kids, children remember that this part of the mind is super powerful, and I just help them in their future versions of them. I give them the tools to be able to make the decisions for themselves
mm,
rather than I know for me when I was 16, 17, 18, alcohol was starting to be a thing. And I was only doing it because the people around me were doing it.
mm.
So I show them and say, look, if your friend Tom's drinking alcohol, well, just because Tom's doing it doesn't mean you have to. You have the
Mm,
power to make that decision yourself. And I'm
mm,
showing them that for me, I drank because all my mates were drinking, and then it became a problem after that because I was running away from things that was happening in my life, like trauma and some stuff
mm,
in my life. I used it as more of an escape, and it's ensuring that they can remember that and be like, well, the choice is mine whether I pick it up or not because my parents did it or because Tom, Dick, and Harry are doing it. I'm doing
mm.
it because I made the choice. I'm just giving them the choice and handing them back their power to be able
Ah,
to make
right.
those
Yeah.
choices.
I get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. And so you've got on your website, I saw a break-free mentoring service. And it's like a 5-step or 6-step, is it a 6-week?
Yeah, so my group coaching
Broken
program
up
is a 9-week program,
nine
and
week. Yep.
we have different topics for each week. So some of them are understanding self-sabotage, cultivating self-awareness, shifting negative self-talk. I've got goal setting, vision boards. So it's just helping them step into what they want to be. I know for me, when I was a kid, I want to be a writer. And I can tell
Voila,
you a
you
story about
have.
well, that was actually shut down. So
Mm-mm.
when I was in grade 2, I had this is how powerful this part of the mind is. And I'll show your listeners and you guys an example of this, and I'll personalize it. So I've got my glasses case here. This represents your subconscious mind. It records 11 million pieces of information per second. It's scanning for the most repetitive content in your environment from when you fly out of the womb until right here, right now. So this
Mm-hmm.
case represents your subconscious mind, and it's scanning everything. So for me, in grade 2, I was on the floor playing Lego. And I suppressed this as a trauma. So in grade 2, my parents were in a parent-teacher interview. I was playing with Lego, and the teacher said to me, to my parents, that Nathan shouldn't be writing about AFL and being a hero. He should be writing about copying off the whiteboard and writing the stuff we're all writing about. So I was writing about being a hero, kicking goals after the siren. I loved AFL as a kid, so I was writing about that. And when the teacher said that, that crushed me inside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was like a mental, like a subconscious block for my writing ability. I deemed my writing not worthy and not enough in that moment. And I never wrote until the last 3 years. So I was laying on a table with a great mentor of mine, and she said, something happened in grade 2, Nate. I was like, really? This part of the mind again? I went straight back there, straight back to that moment. I stood before that child and I said, Nathan, you're so much more than that. That's one person's perception of who and what you can be. There's 6 billion people on this planet, Nathan. You can do and be multiple things. I wrote my book in 6 weeks after that because that child was validated again.
Yeah. I feel like childhood trauma, using the word trauma, I suppose as an adult, we see the word trauma as being a big, massive, huge problem, like, a building falling on you or an airplane falling out of the sky and crushing you. But as a child, or as a small child, a trauma, I feel, in my experience in my life, can just be a sharp word from an adult that's, not understood properly or not explained, or it can be someone at school taking your lunch out of your lunchbox, where it becomes a bigger problem than it is because you're a child, but your perception is large, and you hold on to it until you're an adult, and it could be just a little simple thing that a child has seen when they're 7 or when they're 8 that they've hung on to forever. And when they uncover these things that as an adult and someone says, oh, that probably happened, and all the dominoes fall into place, and you can see that as a child you did see it as a big problem, but as an adult it's not so bad.
And this part of the mind remembers that, and this part of the mind wants to keep us safe. It loves us and protects us. So what it did for me was it put this barrier blockage there that no, you're not going to deal with that now, you'll deal with that later. And it was like a suppression thing. So as soon as I went back to that moment in time and I unpacked it, I wrote my book in six weeks. This part of the mind is so powerful. And it's not taught in schools. It's not taught anywhere for a lot of reasons. And I'm here with this information to empower people to be like, we can overcome these things. We can unpack this part of the mind and we can reprogram it and reshape our reality and reshape our whole lives towards the life that we wanted when we were kids. Like, I want to be a writer when I was a kid. So now I'm now a writer. I have a book coming out soon. I write blogs. That child's validated.
Because I just had a little chain of thought I was going to go wandering down then. And it's, so what part of the mind does that have a name, that part of the mind?
Subconscious mind.
Oh, just the subconscious mind.
You can call it subconscious, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty huge part of our mind. So do you do timeline healing, going back in time?
I can, yeah. I can take people back to those moments in time now as well. Yeah, I've developed that ability.
Those little moments are pretty powerful, because I know I've done some of that myself, and it can be quite frightening for someone to go back to that space as a child. Once you got into your child mind and you've gone back to that space, it can be
That's why it's good to reach out and ask for help. Yeah, it's why it's good to reach out and ask for help from someone like me, heaps of others that can take you back there. And I've had a lot of clients tell me, oh, Nath, you're standing right there with me. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm standing there with you in that moment that you've gone back to. Yeah.
So your clients would obviously feel a fair amount of trust with you and safety and personability to feel, to be able to feel, I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but to be able to feel ready to make that shift, ready to rediscover the blockages that they might have.
Yeah, and it can be a blockage around exercise, eating, drinking, watching TV shows.
So many things.
Scrolling on your phone. There's heaps. Yeah, there's so many forms of self-sabotage, and there's wealth-based too. Money comes into it. So there's so many ways that we hold ourselves back.
Yeah, I did some training a few years ago with a guy called JP Sears. Do you know JP?
I know him. Yeah. I want to interview him, actually.
Oh, so he's a self-sabotage extraordinaire. Well, he was.
Yeah, he's actually worked with my mentor.
Yes.
He did the same program I did.
Yeah. Oh, okay. JP Sears did that, or your mentor did that?
No. JPCs did that program as
Sears did
well.
it. Right. So
Yeah.
his work's pretty that's pretty powerful stuff if that's the kind of stuff that you're doing with people. That's really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, pretty
Oh,
much the same sort of
fantastic.
stuff, just in my own way. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what's one of your do you think do your clients have one biggest obstacle that they need to overcome, or is it just
Yeah, it's
self-sabotage?
yeah, but yeah, it is. Oh, it's so much more than self-sabotage. But
Yeah.
one of the main things I've found in the last probably year and a half since I've started this is a lot of people are in fear of being that version of themselves. I know I was too,
Oh, yeah.
of being that strong, healthy version of themselves that's out there, that's
Yeah.
speaking their truth,
Because it's not
that's
the
got the
Australian way,
power.
right?
No, it's
It's not the
not.
Australian way, is it? We don't
No.
like the tall poppies.
No, that's exactly right. That's another deeply embedded program inside the psyche of this country and Canada and all the Five Eyes countries is when someone rises up, we want to trim them down.
Isn't it weird? It's
Yeah.
weird, isn't it? So cultural. Um,
And
so
I have many people wanting to bring me down, but the only person that's ever going to bring me down is myself. And
is
I ain't bringing
yourself.
myself down anymore.
No, no, no. You've been there. You've gotten
And I
through that
help people
journey.
remember that too, that doesn't matter what Tom, Dick, and Harry are saying in their mum's basement. It doesn't matter. What
Mm-mm-mm.
matters is the people that you're impacting. And as I always say, this part of the mind works with repetition. It's like going to the gym and doing bicep curls. If you're going to go in the gym and do bicep, 10 sets of 10 reps of, or 3 sets or whatever it is, over the course of time, you're going to build strength physically. This part of
Yeah.
the mind's the same. You can out rep the negative with the positive by inserting positive things in your life, in your environment, such as affirmations. Something as simple as "I love you, Linda" can heal you on multiple levels, because
Mm,
a lot of people I work with too get uncomfortable saying "I love you" to themselves
mm-mm.
because
It
they've
is.
never
It's true.
probably heard
No,
that
I've
as a
never heard it.
child. I know for me, I had this beautiful affirmation up on my wall right in front of me right now. It says, "I love you, Nathan. I believe in everything you do. Success is yours." I never ever said that to myself. I had my mentor show me it in a session with me that I do now, and I was super uncomfortable saying to myself that I love myself. And I find that now too, the people and even the kids I work with, they say, "Oh," and they're uncomfortable saying that.
Yeah, I know for me, it's not until you actually find that the words and the emotion that goes with those words within yourself that you can start moving forwards. For me, anyhow,
Yeah.
that's how it was. That I had to all of a sudden realize that what I say is worthy, what I say is my passion, and it's okay to share it. So it took me a while to get to that point. It does, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Human nature.
It is,
Who's
yeah.
who's your greatest success story? Have you got a couple to share with us?
My greatest success story. I have two to share.
Yeah, cool.
One of them's a really good friend of mine, so she'll listen and probably watch. She did 3 sessions with me about this time last year, just before actually it was just before Easter.
Ah,
And in the third session, what happened? Oh yeah, she's living on the Sunshine Coast now too. So she gave me the inspiration, like, hey, we can actually leave this place and live a good life here. So she did 3 sessions with me and moved. She was only 20 or 19, 20 and moved out of home to another state and is thriving now.
yeah. Oh, cool. Just from having 3 sessions
Yeah.
only. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And she's a good friend of mine now too. And it's just awesome. Yeah. And another success story was, this is going to be a bit woo woo, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Was I did a session with this awesome woman. She's only also 19, 20. And we were sitting at this table in where I was from, down in Victoria, in this awesome place in nature. And her mum came to her. Well, she came to me and she's like, "My mum's there." I said, "Yeah, she is." And I said a couple of things to her to bring that so she could see her. And I said 3 things and she saw her mum standing there. She gave her a hug. It was the most beautiful thing.
Oh, just broke your little heart.
Yeah, it was a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah.
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 To be
Cool.
able to be able to have people turn on their spiritual gifts is a pretty awesome thing to see.
So you wander through the spiritual world a little bit. Can you
Yeah,
share with
well,
us?
yeah. So the way this I found it works through myself and through others is, if your body's healthy, if you're eating organic food, you're working out, you're exercising, you're getting sunlight, you're not drinking you're drinking filtered water, you're taking care of your vessel that you've inhibited for this human experience, it can do some pretty cool things. You know, you can feel things, you can feel energy, you can feel when things are not right, you can feel when something's right, like an intuition.
Yep.
That's sort of the work I do, is I help clean you up so that you can start to feel things and you can be guided by your heart, not your ego. And you can listen to that inner voice of yours that's guiding you somewhere pretty special. I help you silence those other dark thoughts to listen to that heart that's just wanting to show you the life that you've born to have. You've just had these subconscious belief systems and these blocks stopping you from doing that one thing or those multiple things that you came here to do. I just help unlock that.
So what would a typical session look like? How long do they last?
Well, an hour and a half, and I play some videos to show you how this part of the mind's hackable.
Right.
And then I show you how it works. And then the second session, you come to me and I play some more videos and we start to map out what it is that you want to do. I send my clients a questionnaire first, which is pretty, we lay it all on the table. Your belief systems, the way you live your life, things you're eating and drinking, like we cover everything. And then I sort of know them before they come in. They come in, we do our first session. I sort of show them how this part of the mind's programmable. Might take them back to some childhood stuff as well, depending what sort of comes up. Second session's all about the affirmations that I make up for people. So I make affirmations for people. I make them, they say them to themselves during a little ceremony. We sort of insert the new belief systems and we take and throw out the old ones through a little ceremony we do. And then the third session is all about mapping out where you want to go from here, what your goals are, what your vision is. What sort of situation do you want to leave? Do you want to leave your family home if you're in your 20s? Do you want to leave that relationship that's kept you down? There's so many things that can play out, and it's just helping people nudge them back on that path towards their greatness.
Cool. And I was going to ask you who your ideal client would be.
Oh, my ideal client would be someone that was like myself 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was off the rails. Do we want to use that word? Living the life of Riley is another word I hear.
Well, I was just living the life the way all Aussie young males currently are living their life, right? I just found that there was a better way to live this life than doing what we're all programmed to do, which is eat, drink, sleep around, and work a job you don't like and hit repeat. I just said to myself, I want to step off that cycle now.
It was time. It was your time to step off that cycle. It's interesting because I was interviewed a young fellow on my podcast probably about September last year, and he's called the carnivore tradie. So his do you know who I mean?
I've come across him,
yeah. So his whole idea is to get young tradies to eat better and look after their bodies more, and he's doing amazing things talking to young people just about eating, because you've mentioned eating well, feeding his body well and not filling up with sugar and not filling up with alcohol and not filling up with drugs. So he's doing a pretty phenomenal job as well down there in Melbourne. I'm sure he is. So when you talk about food with people, are you just all around nutrition, or do you have a particular?
So I read Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and I learned everything I needed to learn about food. So if anyone wants that book, I jump on Paul Chek's website and buy that book. It not only will change your life physically, it will help you, well, physically first. You got to get your physical health right first. So that book's a great one to start your physical health journey. But I sort of show people and tell them that 90% of the food you buy in the supermarket is toxic poison, and it's not food. It's fake food. So there are plenty of health food shops. There's farmers markets here where I live. I go and support the local organic farmers at the farmers markets and get my produce from them, rather than going to Coles and Woolies, where the supermarket in there and the food in there is basically poison. Even your fruit and veggies, they're sprayed with herbicides and pesticides that would choke a maggot.
Not a lot of people
are consuming that. No, they don't.
Have I got my Paul Chek book here? How to Move and Be Healthy? I have.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
there
a
it is. There,
one.
Show your viewers. Yeah.
That's a different one. That's the
different one,
coaching one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got it here somewhere, but that book's fantastic. So it's a
It
really
is.
good, oh, I haven't got it. It's a really good book to start with, because I've done the pull check training, holistic level 1, 2, and 3. And that was a turning point for me in my life. So just to understand what food does to your body, what food
Yep.
does to your mindset, how to build your body to build muscle and keep moving
Yep.
and keep active in your body. It's such a good course to do. I think I did that. I would have done that in about 2011, 12, maybe. I started doing those courses. It's a long time ago. And I came to New South Wales to do them at Port Macquarie, Port Macquarie, northern New South Wales. They were great. And he actually, I'm just getting back to your spirituality, Paul Chek teaches you to get in touch with who you are.
Yes, he does.
And live your true life and live your true self. And that's your perspective. That's where you come from as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel if you get your body physically healthy, then you'll start to feel things and you'll start to feel what's right for you, what's not working, that
Absolutely.
relationship, that job, that TV show, that drink, that smoke. You start to find things that aren't necessarily working for you. And that's why I find people do self-sabotage, is because if they ever took out those things that are keeping them stuck, then they'll have to make big changes in their lives. And unfortunately, some people aren't quite ready to make those changes, hence why they're picking up the smokes, they're picking up all these things to keep them where they are, because it's easier.
Yeah, and when you're young, it's that peer pressure, isn't it, of everyone else is doing
Yeah,
it,
it's a
so it
huge
must
one.
be something that I need to be doing. Yeah, as well. I feel as well, when people clear up their diet, when they start eating less processed food and less sugar, their brain functions much more clearer. That's what's happened to me, much clearer. So then you can begin to notice, oh, maybe I don't need to do that. Oh, maybe that's something that doesn't really fulfill my spirituality or whatever. It's easier to make those decisions when your mind is clear. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And you've got to clean that gut out too, because it's a gut mind connection, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That mind gut connection is pretty full on. I noticed you've got blue glasses on, have you?
Yes, I do. So that's
Yes.
another layer to this too. Yeah, the lights
So
in your home
talk
and the
about your blue
computers and that.
glasses to me. Tell me what they're doing for you right at this moment.
Well, these are computer glasses. So the blue light off my laptop, which you can probably see if I look closer,
I can see it. Yeah,
bouncing off,
it.
is protecting my eyes from that blue light that's on my laptop. I have nighttime ones, those red light glasses.
Oh, you've got the red ones?
Yeah, I've got the red ones too. And what they do is these glasses put you back in that circadian rhythm, that day-night cycle that we have all fallen out of touch with, I feel. And our bodies, after when the sun goes down, should be producing melatonin for sleep. So if we have our lights turned on, our bodies aren't really producing melatonin because our bodies think it's still daytime. So I put those glasses on when the lights are on to protect my eyes, so it's a bit more darker, so that I'm able to then go to bed and sleep rather than be sitting up all night. I found that my sleep's improved having worn these glasses, because I'm back in that circadian rhythm. So I go to bed with the sun. Well, it's actually the sun's gone, just back on in now. But I go to bed. I wake up with the sun too. So we're in that circadian rhythm, because we're sort of all out of touch with that.
That's so important for all your hormone production.
Yeah, it
to
is.
have that correct circadian rhythm as we move through the world. We all need to be healthy with our hormones and our brain set and our bodies. So what about movement? How do you encourage movement to bring people to bring movement into their lives?
Well, I'll sort of go to my story with movement.
Okay.
I was using exercise as a form of self-sabotage. So the way this works is the mind's very good at keeping you safe. And I was using alcohol and women to keep me safe, to keep me functioning, right? So I cut those things out of my life. So I wasn't ready to just form into my best self. There was still some things holding me back inside my psyche where I needed to escape. So I used exercise to escape. So I found myself riding 100 to 200 Ks a week and running 30 to 40 on top of that. So my body was starting to break down because it wasn't ready to just go and do that, right?
It
So
would
I
have,
had
yes.
the shin splints, the hips. I had some serious stuff going on with my body. My knees were playing up. And I was using exercise to escape because that part of the mind keeps us safe. So I needed something else to escape. So I picked up exercise. So the way I've now my relationship with movement is if my body feels like it wants to move today, then I'll go and move it.
Right. Okay, cool.
So
I like
when you
that.
get back in touch with your intuition and you'll start to feel like, oh, I feel like moving today. Or I feel like going to the gym now. Like I go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, but there'll be some days where I'll work out later than others because my body's like, oh, I'm not ready to work out yet, but it might be
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
So yeah, so with my relation with movement now is that if I feel like I want to move, then I'll go for a walk, I'll go swim in the ocean, like I'll do those things to move if my body feels like it wants to move.
Yeah. So
Rather
how would
than escape my life and escape who I was to then just go and ride all and run and do all those things.
So if you've got someone, say you're coming up to your 21 to 35-year-old crew, if you've got someone that's say, I don't know, 34, and they've been sitting on the couch for the last 10 years of their life eating a fairly sad Australian diet and not sleeping, drinking all the alcohol that they want, where would you start with that person?
I would start and say you're not broken, you're working as designed.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
broken, they're just working as designed.
yeah.
And these are only programs, and we can easily shift them in a matter of minutes. There's a
So when you
video on YouTube. Max Major did a video on America's Got Talent 4 years ago. If people want to go and watch that video, Max Major, America's Got Talent, and watch the way he was able to, through subliminal messaging and what I was talking about before with repetition, he only used 3 reps of the sun, and he had Howie drawing suns. He had everyone on their screens drawing suns just by his intro video where he was walking through the bars and stuff, telling people how he hacks their mind. He had them all drawing suns. 3 reps of the suns is all it took. So
Gosh.
I can give you those same reps in affirmations and in the words I say to you to out rep those negative influences in your life. And a part of that's saying I love you, and another part of that's saying that you're not broken, you're just functioning as designed. And once you learn how this part of the mind works and how you can reprogram it, then those influences and those things that you're doing won't become a thing anymore.
When you say the word that you're working as designed, what does that? Can you elaborate what that actually means?
Yeah, so our bodies can do some pretty awesome stuff,
Yeah.
but it can also do stuff that we feel safe and we feel fine, but it's actually destroying us because. So the way I say it is, it's working as designed. So if in your repetitive environment when you're a kid
Yeah.
was alcohol, right? Your
Yeah.
parents drank, your friends drank, your
Yeah, yeah.
da 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 da. You've picked up alcohol as a repetitive program. So that's
Yeah.
your body working as designed. It's
Right.
like, well, you're picking up that alcohol without the conscious awareness of why you're doing it.
So it's like a cultural, the world
And
you
it's
live in
also a
is
cultural
designing
thing
you.
here in
Yeah, yeah.
Australia. It's all over the TV. It's all over these things. You see everyone, they promote it, and that's repetition.
Mm-mm. It's a
So
bit
if you
like,
turn that TV off, well,
yeah,
then you're on the right track to being your best self, because that's where the programming mainly comes from,
the
is what
TV.
people are watching on the TV.
I always say to people, that I have women coming to me that have tried to lose weight and can't lose weight, and then they keep falling off the wagon. They say, I
That's a
can't
form of
do this.
self-sabotage too.
Yeah, absolutely is.
And
But
it's that part of the mind again, right?
the self
I'll share your story
Okay, go.
with people with weight loss journeys and stuff. You are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah,
So I ask people who their 5 best friends are and what their habits are,
yeah,
because that's who they become. So for me, I turned my back on alcohol and chasing women. Now, my friends were doing that. So I stopped doing that.
yeah.
And
So you needed a new group of friends, right?
yeah, because I wasn't going to be doing that anymore. But what
That's
I'm
right.
saying is people hang on to those friendships and they hang on to that part of themselves. This part of the mind keeps you safe, remember?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hanging on to that, right? So if you start rising up and your friends go, oh, geez, Jenny's changed. She's looking a bit skinnier. They'll start judging you. They'll
Mm-mm-mm.
start saying stuff to you. They'll start saying, hey, why don't you have a drink? Why don't you have that slice? Have that chocolate?
Mm-mm.
Because you're rising up. And this part of the mind, if you're not ready to rise up, you won't rise up. So you'll find yourself falling back on the wagon, drinking the chocolate, watching the TV, eating the chips, doing those things because it's safe.
I heard a beautiful quote today from a guy that I've got coming on my podcast at the end of the week, next week, that if you use the term falling off the wagon, it means you're actually a passenger, you're not driving the wagon. So you're allowing yourself to be, you're allowing the driver, whoever that driver is, which might be your friends that want to give you a quick drink of alcohol or, a chocolate bar or include you in their crowd, to drive your life instead of hopping in the front seat and driving it yourself, which is, I think, is what you're on about as well.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. And then as humans, we're pack animals. We're of tribal instinct, right? So if our tribe's doing all these things, then we're that way inclined to go and do that as well. And I use the analogy of the crabs in the crab bucket, right? If you catch a ton of crabs, you put them all in a bucket and one of them tries to rise up, well, what are the other crabs doing? They're trying to pull them back.
Drag them back.
That's modern society summed up right there. As soon as someone rises up, the crabs are trying to pull you back. And a lot of people go back because that part of themselves rising up is quite scary. And for me, it was too.
But it is, because your safety net's gone, right? People that you know are not there anymore.
Correct. And this journey of self-discovery, people are either going to support you and follow you on the journey, or they're going to stay where they are. They're going to stay stuck in their stuff. And and unfortunately, you have to let them go for you to continue to rise.
Yeah, there is that.
The hardest thing for that is sometimes it's family.
Yes, very hard. Very hard. Yeah, I can imagine that would be.
Like, my brother and I moved from Victoria in August last year up here to Queensland because it was time for us to transform, grow, and evolve more, because where we were was keeping us stuck in some familiar patterns. We had to get out of there to keep going.
Got to find your new crew.
We found our new crew now. But it was the inspiration of that client of mine, Sophie, that just made it happen. We're like, we're going to follow you. So the tribe's already here, because we're a tribal instinct, right? So, and as I said before, you are who you surround yourself with. So if anyone out there is listening and watching, if all your friends are drinking, smoking, partying, drinking coffee, doing all these things, and you're doing it too, then if you want to rise up and be better, unfortunately, you got to quit those habits. If your friends don't want to quit, that's fine. You just keep striving, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you've got to keep moving forward. So people want to get some help from you, Nathan. Where do they find you? On all the socials. I know your website's teenageselfsabotage.com.
Yep, you can find me on there, and there's heaps of free information on my website. I've written some blogs covering the current music that's out there right now. And that's education on this subconscious mind too. So I've gone with the big guns. I've covered Taylor Swift. I've covered some artists with the songs in there that the music's programming you too. Yes. And it's in an interesting shift in the culture of music over the last 30 or 40 years, having gone back into this mainstream music. It's gone very sexual. It's gone very devil worship. It's gone very crazy. And I believe that. And this part of the mind, right? If you're listening to music about drugs, alcohol, sex, like, there's a song out there talking about bending a girl over, and like that, it's a song that he's bending a girl over. It's like, well, that's what our youth are listening to. That's the type of behavior they're engaging in, because of what I said before. This part of the mind is super powerful. If your repetition is sex, drugs, and alcohol, I guarantee you the music's part of it too. If you're sex, drugs, and alcohol, I guarantee you, look at the songs you're listening to, go back through your playlist and read the words. They're programming you through the music, through the TV. They're programming you on social media. It is a web. It's a huge web, but you can break free from it and become a creator rather than a consumer. And so it's the same thing. If you're surrounding yourself with people on TikTok that are shoving carrots anywhere, that are doing things like scaring people and doing all these meaningless stuff, if you surround yourself with empowering content, that's a repetition thing too. If you're surrounding yourself with with those empowering content, it's going to help you change. But if your algorithm is full of chicks in bikinis like mine used to be, that was driving me towards the porn, then that's what you're going to do. Social media is a big part of that too. The algorithms can destroy you or they can create you. And the TikTok app is unbelievable. I post a video and I leave straight away, because the videos on there, it can hook you in.
I'm
very
enjoying
careful.
TikTok. I haven't gone that far. Instagram's enough for me.
Yeah.
It gets my brain trying to
But
work
the
out what the
algorithms,
hell
though,
I'm
like
doing.
for me, when I was, in my early 20s, it would be chicks in bikinis everywhere. So that was sort of driving my
Because that's what
sexual
you've clicked
habits.
on, so it comes up all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Fair enough.
And then the
So
songs I was listening to was all about sex, drugs, and alcohol. That's sort of what I was doing.
empower.
I watched American Pie as a kid. So I had
Uh,
Stifler. Stifler, the character
no,
Stifler in American
no,
Pie. He
no.
sort of was talking about all these conquests. He would brag about it. He'd be immature,
Ah,
but he was the cool guy. That's who
yeah.
I wanted to be. I'll go Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men.
Oh, yes,
He had the cigars, the beach house, he had the hot tub, and he had the revolving door of women.
yes,
That's the guy I thought this part of the mind was king and was cool. It was safe to be Charlie. I'm like, I want to be like Charlie. Joey in Friends, same thing again. He had the women, the revolving door of women. He was a child. That's the sort of person I thought was a king and was cool. The
yeah. That was your
person that's a
model.
king and is cool is the person that's working on himself every day, that's taking care of himself and his emotions, and he's stepping into his masculine power. That's being a king and cool, not chasing women, not smoking alcohol, not doing drugs, not smoking and vaping and watching porn. That's not being a king. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other layer to that is that's how I would treat women. I would treat women the
Uh-uh.
way Stifler and Joey
Yeah,
would. Women
yeah.
don't like being treated like that in the real world, but in the movies they'll program you and say that's how women like being
How it
treated.
is.
They don't like being treated like that.
No,
I
they
know from
don't.
firsthand experience they don't like being treated like that.
I know as well. They don't.
It's
So
like a
when you
mic drop moment.
you start, so you're a 12 to 20-year-old. You're 3 weeks into that course. When do you start the next one?
And the next one will start probably in May. So I'll give myself a bit of time to advertise it.
Yeah.
So that will start in May sometime. Yeah, I'm going to launch that the next couple of days, actually.
And if a parent listens and they want their 12-year-old to come along to that, and the 12-year-old agrees, that's part of the deal. They can just join them in.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
parent sits in too, so the parent can learn this stuff as well, so they can
Cool.
support the child. Yeah, I have parents
That's
sitting
nice.
in. I
Yeah,
do
that's
the
nice.
presentation, and the parents are sitting with the child, being like, so they're learning this stuff too, so they're on the journey together. I know for me,
Nice.
when I started this journey, unfortunately, my family weren't on the same path as me, whereas my brother
Yep.
was. It's nice
Cool.
to be able to have that family all come together and learn this
Yep.
information.
Empowering, really empowering. And you're on Instagram as Teenage Self-Sabotage. You've got your
I'm
website.
on Instagram as Nathan Francis is
Nathan
Instagram.
Francis.
That's my Instagram. Yeah, that's my Instagram, Facebook, and
Okay.
Instagram,
Cool.
Facebook, yeah.
They'll be able
And
to
then my
find you.
podcast is called Breaking Free.
That's right, Breaking Free. Okay, that's
There's some
another good
solo
one.
episodes there. There's some awesome guests I've had on. I might interview you, actually. I might get you on. We can cross over.
Okay,
Yep.
you can do some
And
stuff.
yeah, I've had some awesome guests on, some awesome stories. I've shared a lot of my stuff on there as well. And then there's my website, teenageselfsabotage.com. There's free information there. All my blogs are there. My podcast is there. There's links to my social on there as well. So
And what's your book? What's your book called? What's your book called?
My book is called Breaking Free, a teens and young adults guide to identifying their addictions and overcoming them.
Great. And is it on Amazon or is it on?
It's about to be everywhere soon.
Oh, okay. You've just finished it. Oh, you're
No,
6 weeks.
I finished it 2 years ago, but it's just been a process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote that book. I wrote that book very early on in my journey because I felt like I needed to write something. So I wrote that book. Yeah. Yeah.
And have you gone back and changed it at all from?
No, this is an interesting question you ask. Yeah. So I had the publisher email me the final draft of it, and I read it back and I was like, whoa, it's like, do I go back and change all this stuff or leave it the way it is? And I thought, well, no. I wrote that for a certain group of individuals at that time, because if I went deeper, people might not be ready to read some of the stuff that I would go deeper with. So I think for the moment, it's surface level. It's going to meet people where they're at. And I left it the way it was. The way it's set up too, just to give a plug, the way it's set up is I've sort of generalized why people do these things. And then I put at the back half of the chapter why I did it. So I opened myself up and shared my journey with alcohol, porn, all that stuff, people pleasing, all that stuff. And then at the end of the chapter, there's affirmation and journal pages and journal prompts, so that you read the chapter, there's questions there, and you can start writing stuff down.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah,
I think journaling's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, it is. I do it every day. It's awesome. So it's sort of to start that off, yeah. And then
Cool.
some resources and some links to some further information that helped me during 2 years ago.
And if
Some
people
books like
are
Paul Check's books on there as well.
Cool, check.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Resources that
Check.
helped me. Yeah.
That was great, those times with Paul Check. It seems so long ago, but I guess it was. I guess it is
Yeah.
that long ago.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
of course you do Zoom counselling and in person. Is this how you run yourself? Is it through Zoom?
Pretty much, yeah. It's
Yeah,
online,
yeah.
so anywhere in the world people can jump on. I've had families in America join my program, which is awesome.
Great, great.
People in Canada have come and worked with me, so yeah, it's
Fantastic.
anywhere in the world you can come and jump on. But yeah, there is in person as well. So if anyone's on the Sunshine Coast listening, feel free to reach out. And I've got a few little spots I can take some clients around here that are pretty secluded and
Oh,
very,
nice.
very, 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 very peaceful.
Interestingly, I was interviewing a lady on Thursday night last week, and she is a lifestyle coach. I'm going to use the word lifestyle coach, but she took herself from the age of 58 to hike the Inca Trail. And then she climbed Mount Kilimanjaro twice. And now I think she must be a bit older than me now. But she's realized that counseling or chatting or talking with people in nature is so powerful.
It
because
is.
the nature takes part of the
and that's where I take my in-person clients. I take them into nature. That's where I did that session with that 19-year-old last year. And yeah, she's kicking goals now. She's written her first book too.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
she only worked with me 8 months ago and she's already written a book. This is how quick you can shift programs for this part of the mind. You know, if you want to shift something and you're ready for it, then you'll shift it, and the life of your dreams is right there, ready to grab.
Right there, ready to grab. Gosh. All right. Well, on that note, I will let you get back to, you probably might want to head back to the beach or whatever you're doing today.
Oh, I'll cook some dinner, actually.
Cook some dinner.
Where I am now.
I'll let you go and do that. Thanks for your time, Nathan. And I'll get this up probably early next week. And I'll send you all the links so you can.
Yeah, I'll post them for you and
do what you need to. Thank you very much.
I'll give a final word for people.
Yeah.
So you can edit that. I'll give a final word.
What's the final word?
If you're stuck, if you're struggling, if you're weak, if you're addicted, if you're broke, if you're unhappy, if you're depressed, there is always a way out. And the best thing I ever did was reach out and ask for help. Yeah. Now, I shared that story at the start where I said that I said to myself I would stop drinking. That was my cry for help, because the next day I found that podcast, and then that podcast changed my life. Then the guy that was in the podcast, Jason, his program changed mine. It can be that quick. It doesn't have to just be a handout to say physically I ask for help. Just set the intention and help will be on its way. And if it's through me, awesome. If it's through someone else, then great. But you don't have to be where you are. There's always a way out. And the first step is just reaching out and asking for help. And I know, just quickly, I know a lot of people they're a bit older. Their program, especially the men, is crying's weak.
Yes.
Asking for help is a sign of weakness. Crying and asking for help is not weakness. It's courageous, it's bold, and it's beautiful. Because in the last 3 years, I've cried more in the last 3 years than I did in my 26 years prior.
Oh,
and crying is a beautiful thing.
It is, and I was actually going to touch on that. People in my generation don't often share very much or very well because they've been told not to. So it's refreshing to see you with your passion getting out there talking to the blokes. I like it. Yes,
reach out, ask for help. It's always there, and who knows, you could be doing something like this one day yourself.
Lovely. Thanks, Nathan.
No worries.
Cheers.
That was good.